This is not just another sports car. This is the moment where legacy meets reinvention, because the Nissan Z carries decades of history, but under the surface is something entirely different. And to understand it, you don't start with the design. You start with the heart, because everything you feel, every response, every surge of power, begins here, under the hood, waiting, silent at first, until that cold start. And the moment it fires up, you hear it, not loud, not aggressive, but controlled, a tight, mechanical tone, with a subtle depth underneath, because this is not a naturally aspirated scream. This is forced induction, twin turbocharged, breathing differently, idling differently, living under pressure. And at idle, you feel that slight vibration, not harsh, but present, because the engine isn't trying to isolate you, it's trying to connect you, to remind you that something serious is happening beneath your right foot. And as it warms up, the idle settles, refines, becomes smoother, more stable, but never fully silent, because even at rest, this engine feels alive. Now let's talk about what it actually is, because this isn't just any V6. It's a modern twin-turbocharged setup, compact, efficient, but engineered for performance. And before we even mention numbers, you need to understand the philosophy behind it, because unlike older Z cars, this isn't about chasing raw displacement. It's about maximizing output from a smaller, more controlled package. And that changes everything, because turbocharging is not just about adding power. It's about shaping how that power is delivered, how it builds, how it responds, how it feels. And here, it starts low, because as soon as you touch the throttle, even gently, you feel it, that initial response, not delayed, not lazy, but immediate enough to feel natural, because modern turbo systems are no longer what they used to be. Gone are the days of heavy lag, that sudden, unpredictable surge. Now, it's progressive, linear, predictable, and in city driving, that matters, because this is where engines reveal their true character, not on the track, not at full throttle, but in everyday movement, stoplight to stoplight, partial throttle inputs, short bursts of acceleration. And here, the Nissan Z feels composed, responsive, balanced. You press the pedal, and the engine reacts immediately, not violently, but with intention, because boost builds smoothly, almost invisibly, until you realize you're already moving faster than expected. And that's the trick, because the power isn't dramatic, it's controlled, delivered in a way that makes it usable and confidence-inspiring. Now compare that to something like the Toyota Supra 5 Malawian Quatches, where the inline-six feels slightly more aggressive, more eager at the top end, but also more dependent on that turbo push, or the Ford Mustang EcoBoost, where the four-cylinder delivers punch, but lacks the deeper mechanical feel. Because here, in the Z, you get something in between, a balance between smoothness and strength, between refinement and raw response, and that balance defines the experience. Now let's push it further, because city driving is only half the story. The real test comes when you open it up. Highway speeds, rolling acceleration, where the engine is already under load, already moving, and you ask for more, 50, 60, 70 miles per hour, and then you press the throttle hard. And this is where the engine reveals itself, because boost builds quickly, torque comes in strong, and the car surges forward, not explosively, but relentlessly, because instead of one big hit, you get a wave, continuous, pulling you forward, without interruption. And as the revs climb, you feel that transition, from low-end torque, to mid-range strength, to top-end pull, and it doesn't fall apart. It holds, keeps pushing, until you lift, or shift. And that consistency is what makes it feel fast, not just numbers, but delivery. Now about those numbers, because this is where expectations come in. Depending on the model year and trim, this engine typically produces around 400 horsepower and torque figures that sit comfortably in the high 300 range. But again, those numbers don't tell the full story, because it's not about peak output. It's about how usable that output is. And here, it's everywhere, accessible, predictable, and most importantly, repeatable. Which brings us to 0 to 60, because on paper, it's quick, but real-world acceleration is about more than power. It's about traction, weight transfer, gear ratios, throttle mapping, and how the engine responds under launch conditions. Because when you launch the Z, you don't get chaos, you get control.